To those that choose to understand why Labour will be forced into the wilderness for a generation, the reasoning is quite simple. The country voted to leave the EU to govern themselves instead of being governed by the European entity. But a large contingent of the ruling class, instead of honouring that decision, did everything they could to put a stake through the heart of what the people voted for. So the electorate chose overwhelmingly to vote for a party to deliver that referendum. It isn't that hard to figure out, is it? But instead of listening to that referendum, instead of learning from voters, they kept doubling down and accusing everybody who didn't support the Remain vote of being racist, sexist, xenophobic. They were even accusing people of being Russian collaborators. And maybe, just maybe, that's why they keep losing. They seem to be alienating the very people they should be reaching out to. Now, I don't know about you, but when I look inward, I'm not looking to be racist, sexist or xenophobic. I'm looking to improve the environment I live in, both for myself and others. And in order to change your country or even your city, you have to connect with the people who will be affected by your policies. You can't blame people for rejecting you if you are permanently demonising their choices, can you? Now, regular people, I believe, are fed up with being ruled by these Orwellian overlords who dictate speech regulation, for example, or politicians that are forcing us not to travel, to work locally, but make us subservient to corporations who are given a free pass to operate globally. We have reached a level of psychological warfare that goes far beyond the imagination of Edward Bernay's propaganda. Now, this isn't a rant in support of Boris Johnson, my goodness, and no doubt the man still owes the cab trade, which is made up of thousands of decent, hard-working taxpayers, reparation. But there does seem to be this correlation running through the left-leaning local authorities that people are consulted on issues, but these tyrannical councillors don't want to honour the results. Instead, they want to impose their insular form of ideology on us that only serves to make lives of ordinary people that much harder. Seriously, we have reached the point where everyone seems to claim their own personal Holocaust. Now, I don't mean that crudely, but screams of, "You didn't use my pronoun," or "You've hurt my feelings," yet all the time you are forcing censorship on me, you want to take stuff away. They expect us to deify them as though they were the oracles of everything that is good in life, and yet all the time they want to steal the freedom away from regular, hard-working people. Try going to Japan and demonise the people there and see how well it turns out for you in the general election. And that is a country that has little crime and is environmentally clean. Try treating the people in Africa, let's say, the same as you've treated people in the UK in the lead up to the general election, and see if they would vote for you. The truth is, in my humble opinion again, no sane person would. Now, on a local level, the borough councils seem to forget that taxi drivers traditionally come from the areas that they represent. They also have children and families and whose futures they care greatly about, and combined, they represent the regular working person whose lives are being detrimentally impacted on by people who don't live in the area or are in the luxurious position of working from home or on flexi time. Now, it's important to stress that I'm not arguing on behalf of the car driver here, even though the car driver clearly has a case to argue, but I am arguing on behalf of my customers who may have mobility issues. I'm arguing on behalf of the elderly, the frail, the wheelchair dependent and those carrying heavy luggage. After all, it's not the cabbie who is late for an interview. It's not the cabbie who is meeting his or her sister for a birthday lunch. It's not the cabbie who is doing the weekly shop for his elderly parents. And it's not the cabbie who is holding a meeting with colleagues en route to a meeting in the office, is it? However, it is the cabbie that is providing a much valued and justified service to all those that have chosen not to drive a car, or better still, not to own one. And I've got to say, unlike their rideshare counterparts, cabbies carry out that service with very little fuss. Now, the issue for us, however, is that the local authorities know exactly what they are doing. They are already aware that hidden consumption pollution is exasperated by reduced road space. They are already aware that their intolerable schemes are crunching traffic to a standstill. They are already aware that they are prioritising gentrified local roads above less affluent main arteries. But as long as TfL keeps funding these schemes, they will continue to make life a living hell for those that need to be on the road, to the point that driving becomes so unbearable that those needing to use it for business will be made bankrupt. And if that isn't the local authorities working against the best interests of its own residents, then I don't know what is. If the general election proved anything at all, it showed that even those who agree with the far left social agenda have begun to revile the lefty blame game. They have proven to be every bit as angry, nasty, hateful, bitter and authoritarian as the people they claim to be fighting, and everybody is tired of it. I hope the new year sees the local authorities open their eyes to at least having a different strategy. Even if they believe the things they believe politically, they need to treat people with respect, to not be a hypocrite, not to have double standards, not to act so illiberally, and not to discard the viewpoint of the communities they are supposed to serve. The eyes are now on them, and we are not afraid to tackle injustice wherever it is seen. That's it for this week, folks. Remember, if you're up for presenting an opinion, and I know cabbies are not short of opinions, then you can DM me on Twitter at London Taxi Radio or my personal account at Sean Paul Day. Make sure you look after yourselves, both physically and mentally. And remember, if you need help, there is no harm in asking for it. People care far more than what you might realise. Have fun, be good, and I'll see you out there on the mean streets.
So I will be a mayor who begins the renaissance of the black taxi.
Would it be legal or illegal if Uber BV took a booking?
I don't want to get into the specifics about talking about individual operators.
I can ignore the science and ignore the experts like some would like us to do.
Hands up if you're a terrorist! Any terrorists here? No!
We're now expected to tell these passengers that we can't take them fully to their destination.
Bob Crow would have been here, God rest his soul. Why isn't he here? He should be here. He should be here.
Shame! Shame!
What the mayor should be doing is charging everyone. Black cabs, minicabs, small drivers.
Here we are, here's the London taxi trade, a bit late to the party that you've all been having on our expense, but we've turned up at last.
You're convincing that we're fake.
And it's perfectly within the law to switch on and off the hire and reward insurance elements.
I apologise to those who want a smoking gun. There is no smoking gun.
Well, we got to win it, right? Everyone with a badge should be there today. And if you're not, shame on you, right?
31 were killed by cyclists, so around 3 people per year.
But what I want to see is a level playing field.
Is it true that these children will be breathing in diesel emissions from your buses until 2037?
It's 020-3322-8237.
8237. The JR was an adjunct to what we really want is TfL in court.
Taxis are a vital part of London's public transport system.
That does not mean that taxis haven't a part to play.
And why is it that the rules for the black cab are always more draconian than everyone else? That's the question, Mr. Mayor.
I wish you wouldn't block up Parliament Square, but I have to get out of my own taxi and walk.
An example of a brilliant mayor doing a good job with great trade unions.
All of the Luddites in the room.
Would you please clear these people out?
I thought you might say that.
London Taxi Radio, the cabby's choice.